for another special interview where we get valuable insights from Amazon clients on how they handpick the best Amazon VAs out there. He is the owner of REG45 Agency, a dynamic force in the marketing world.
Yes, Nina, he is an entrepreneur who helps third-party sellers achieve excellence on Amazon and helps sellers improve their business.
Without further ado, let's all welcome Mr. John Guenther. Hello, John.
Thank
Hello,
you, Nina.
John.
Thank you, Apollo. Glad to be here.
We are happy that you are here sharing your with us. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day here in Minnesota in the United States. So yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, we heard that you were having a travel before this interview. Was it a business travel or leisure travel?
Personal travel. Yep. I went to visit my family. I grew up in South Dakota, which is just next to Minnesota in the States here. It's about a 4-hour drive home to see my parents and my sister's family. So that was a nice visit. Try to get back there every 2-3 months just to stay in touch with my family so they're nice and close.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. And well, based on my experience, I also have Amazon clients before who trusted me so well that I noticed they always go out or on vacation if they had that level of trust with their VAs.
Yeah, that's a great point, And I got to be honest, that's something I'm almost taking for granted now. Back when I first started the agency in 2019, so 5 years, it's hard to believe I just said that actually, but it was just myself. And as I've added team members from the Philippines and their skills have just grown exponentially, I have immense trust in them to be able to totally take care of things if I need to take a few days off. And I don't really take it for granted. I probably should mention it more to them like every day, but it's really a great thing. And we're able to expand the business that way too, without it being all dependent on me having to do, so many things. It's nice to be able to take a vacation.
Nice. I love hearing these kind of stories. It's because our students' training is for them to be self-managed, to be trustworthy, and to keep on adding value to their clients.
And also, I would like to ask a curious question for John, who is an entrepreneur, because you also mentioned a while ago that you still value to have some day off every now and then, because there's connotation for others that when you are an entrepreneur, you have lots of time, you can do whatever you want. So how is it? How does it look like for an entrepreneur? Is it really something that you are free all of the time, or there's really a sense of responsibility for you to be hands-on and to do things day to day? Because that's some people are thinking the balance between being in the corporate world or being an entrepreneur, and they really feel that it's easier to be an entrepreneur. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, great question, Apollo. Thank you. Entrepreneurship is very near and dear to my heart. I'll give a quick background. I worked in corporate America, mostly here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis metro area, for a lot of big companies, Target, United Health Group, and other big corporations. But back in 2016, I didn't start to realize I kind of struggled in corporate world with the rigid schedule of 8 to 5 every day and lots of meetings and things like that. And when I made the switch over to entrepreneurship, it was really night and day for me. I could never go back to the corporate world. And one of the things that I value the most about entrepreneurship, being a business owner, is having the flexible time schedule. Not necessarily that you work less. In fact, I do work a lot more now, like total hours, but I have so much more flexibility in what I was craving before in the corporate world and you don't get. So absolutely love that part of it. And also freedom, I guess, or flexibility, but then creativity and creation. The fact that I've created Amazon Account Management Agency with a lot of help. I had advisors, and it's not just me. I don't want to say it like it was all me. And now I have a team in the Philippines. And so we've created this organization that is really wonderful. And it didn't exist before. And it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't an entrepreneur. That part is really important. And I have the flexibility now. I've got 2 other major projects going as well with my partner, one in the fitness space, an actual product launch, and another one is a newsletter around longevity and health and wellness. Lots going on for me.
Wow. So outside the e-commerce space, you're also launching other projects more in the health and fitness. And
Yeah.
great that you mentioned or highlighted some important points, because this will be viewed not only by aspiring virtual assistants, but also aspiring sellers or to be entrepreneurs. So I noted here points that you mentioned, that you have flexibility, but as Spider-Man said, with great power comes great responsibility, because you mentioned and you highlighted that you get to work a lot more as compared to when you were working in the corporate job. But you also highlighted that this is an avenue for you to also be creative. So meaning your creativity juices flow, and it's an avenue for you to create more as compared to the rigid structure when you were employed.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That ability to, again, just take an idea and go through the whole process and bring it to life. I mean, that's just wonderful experience. I really like that part of it. And there's challenges certainly with that as well. In fact, last fall in particular, I was having quite a bit of overwhelm with so much going on. And thankfully, I have such a fantastic team in the Philippines that can really run with the Amazon, the REG45 work. But yeah, sometimes you have to watch it. Too many irons in the fire and too much going on, you can get a little bit overwhelmed. And I did struggle with that, to be honest, in the fall, and just kind of have to, focus back on self-care and make sure I'm getting to the gym and eating well and sleeping well and prioritizing work and kind of getting things back under control.
Nice. I see. You know what? It's music to my ears when I hear a successful businessman who would say, I struggled in corporate, I want my own time freedom. It gives me some kind of empowerment, because me, myself, I'm not, corporate wasn't for me. So I went to freelancing and hopefully business soon. Speaking of your corporate, your background was in IT, project management. How did it connect to Amazon or to where you are right?
I don't want to say I stumbled into Amazon, but I got a job in 2016 that allowed me to build from the ground up a client's Amazon business. So they were not selling on Amazon. They had unauthorized resellers selling on Amazon. So their product detail pages were a mess. And I learned all of that just on my own with YouTube videos and trial and error. And that ended in 2019. I decided, prior to that, like you mentioned, I'd done IT jobs, project management, business analysis, never really focusing on one specific thing. And this is I'm glad you mentioned this, because one of the things I like to mention to young entrepreneurs, maybe to not make the mistake I did. So initially in my career, I felt like being a jack of all trades, meaning can do a little bit of a lot of different things, was a good approach. And since learned that that's a terrible approach, I feel personally. And a lot of other people do, like Cal Newport, if you read any of his work, he had so great They Can't Ignore You, I think, is the title of the book that really changed for me. Just focus on one thing. Don't worry about finding your passion. Don't worry so much about that. If you have something that you like, it's ideally, can't be something you hate, but if it's something you like, try to focus on that and on that exclusively. And then the better you get, the more confidence, the more fun it is. And then also your value in the marketplace goes up with the fact that you're more of an expert. And then that builds on it. And it's just a really wonderful thing. And so I decided in 2019, I'm going to go all in on Amazon. Reg45 has never done anything with Walmart.com, Shopify, any other e-commerce. It's all just been Amazon only. And pretty much within the four walls, we're starting to do a little bit with off Amazon ads driving traffic into Amazon. So I guess that's technically not within the four walls, but basically all Amazon. So that's a little bit of advice maybe I'd like to give to young entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs, don't have to be young, just to focus on something. And that's a great way to go.
Sorry, what's the title of the book again?
I think it's called So Great They Can't Ignore You. The author is Cal Newport. It's some variation of that title, if that's not the exact title. It delves into this whole concept of jack of all trades versus specialization and the benefits of kind of focusing down on one thing.
Thank you for that book recommendation, because I myself is a bookworm also. So I'm reading now Think Again by Adam Grant. So I have that listed down. So I will find that in the bookstores here in the Philippines. And I like what you mentioned, John, in terms of passion, because for others, they feel that passion is something that happens to you or something that you find. So I like that you mentioned that you need to focus on one thing and then try it. And then if you like it or that sparks something, then maybe that is the passion that we are looking for. It's not something that when you wake up, this is my passion, I will do this. because
Yeah.
maybe that will frustrate you if ever. So I like what you mentioned, that just do it. Then if you like it, or if
Yep.
it works for you, then good. If not, then maybe you need to find something else to focus on.
Well said, Apollo. I think that a lot of people searching for your passion is such a hard thing. Like, oh, it's my passion. What did I do when I was young? You know, maybe that can help a little bit, but it can be pretty daunting. And for me, it was very frustrating. I think you used that word, actually find what's your passion. So instead, kind of flip that, find something you don't mind doing. Ideally, it's something you might even enjoy doing, and then just keep doing that until you become an expert at it. And
actually aligned to what I came across with the book I'm reading is the author hates when he was a kid, he's asked with the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? So he mentioned that if you're a 5-year-old kid, an 8-year-old kid, of course you don't know what you want to be when you grow up. Or sometimes the adults will not like if your answer is, I want to be a policeman, because they expect, for example, the answer to be an astronaut, to be a doctor, or to be a lawyer. So I think for your experience, have you thought being in the e-commerce platform or having an agency for Amazon when you were 5 or 8 years old?
That's a funny question. Jeff hadn't created Amazon yet when I was that age. So it didn't exist.
Age
So
reveal.
yeah, no, but I totally agree. Those kind of questions, even in high school, maybe 15, 16 years old is maybe when you can start to think about that. But even that's kind of too young. You just don't know enough about the world, about yourself. You have to learn quite a bit about who you are, what you like, know yourself, important, and you need some time for that.
Somehow you found what you like to do, because you mentioned a while ago that you are not seeing yourself going back to corporate, because now REG45, something that you're enjoying being in. And with that, what are some of the challenges that you experienced when you were building it? Because a while ago you mentioned some in terms of managing a team, for example, and sometimes you need to also prioritize your self-care because you work too hard for this business venture. So were some of the struggles that you challenged when you were building REG45?
Well, initially it was just getting the concept down, and I really leveraged a business coach during those first 12 months of the company when it was just myself. Like, how do I go to market? What niche within the Amazon seller community do I want my agency to support? You know, build out the website, like processes for invoicing, all of that stuff, and then finding clients, marketing, finding those initial clients. That was definitely a lot of work and a challenging period for sure. The biggest challenge, though, I probably hit around year and a half, 2 years in, and it was a reluctance to hire my first account coordinator. And this isn't super relevant for this conversation, obviously. My issue was I was already super busy. I was probably managing 6 or 8 accounts. I was talking to seller support, and had to do everything. So the idea of bringing somebody on and then training them on Seller Central and all of that, plus all the REG45 processes, seemed really daunting. Having gone through that, everyone on my team is absolutely amazing. I'm just so blessed to have all of them there. But that first hire, Gladys, has been with us for over 3 years, and I believe she took the course. You know, getting her on board has just changed everything. I would only be here today saying I went on a vacation last week and everything was easy because I made that first step. And I would just say a lot of entrepreneur and perfectionism comes in there too, of who can do it better than me? I think I can do it best and all that. And once you get over that hurdle, it's just really wonderful. That was a challenge to get through that. And so those are a couple of the big challenges, I guess.
First, you highlighted how important to have a coach, because you mentioned you hired a business coach to set all things up, because when you are starting, if you don't know where to start, then a coach may be able to help you. For us, Amazenation, for example, is that coach the students, for example, can rely on for them to guide in the journey. And then I also would like to highlight what you mentioned in terms of trusting others, because I can also relate with what you mentioned, that if you've been doing the task for so long already and you are alone and you're effective, then it's really difficult to trust another person that will do the same job, or the job in the same level as what you expect it to be in. That's why I want to highlight that as well, because I've read from somewhere that if you want to scale, then you need to leverage. Because for sure, I can imagine REG45 will not be in the level where it is right now if you just went through just by yourself and not decide to hire an account coordinator. So for those who are watching, John refers to virtual assistants as account coordinator.
I'm also curious, when you were in the phase of looking for virtual assistants to be additional to your team, because as you said, you were all by yourself, do you have any sort of criteria criteria or standards that you were looking when you were hiring a virtual assistant?
Well, I went the approach of wanting to not necessarily to hire someone with existing Amazon experience, meaning they'd worked with another agency or worked for a brand separately or specifically. So I used onlinejobs.ph and just built out kind of a standard request process through that. And I was just looking for, if they had an Amazon experience, great, but that wasn't a requirement. I was more looking for somebody new that I could bring and train up on all of the REG45 processes. Since I knew I was going to do that anyway, I wanted someone who necessarily didn't have that experience. And I can talk about that interview process because that was my first hire, so it was very new to me as well. But one of the things that was pretty valuable was doing just short Zoom interviews. Well, first I had everyone record a short little Loom video or video of some format to introduce themselves and answer a few questions I prompted them to answer, and then did 30-minute interviews after that, decide on the first hires. So
You're also open for someone who doesn't have any experience.
right, especially as we've grown now, the team can train the new people that come in. So we have kind of a training program for the first couple months that gets them up to speed. It's perfect when they have, of course, some experience in Seller Central, so they kind of can navigate and things like that and know a lot of the basics, which is super important.
I agree. The basics is more important, like how to navigate the Amazon seller account or do some basic listing. And for those of you or guys watching right now and aspire to be an Amazon virtual assistant, go to our description box below. There's a free ebook there, so you'll get a head start on what it's like to become an Amazon VA. So going back to you, John. Apple, do you have any questions?
Yeah, actually, that's music to the ears of alumni of our courses because other virtual assistants are thinking that they need to have experience or their challenge is I'm new to this. For example, I have a full-time job that is unrelated to this. And then now I'm delving into this career. I don't have any experience. Where can I start? It's music to their ears that you mentioned that you are okay or you are open to hire account coordinators that are new because you are there to train them. So what are some of the attitudes, except for the ones that you mentioned already, what are some of the soft skills that they need to have or they need to possess in your experience?
Well, the top one for me certainly was written and spoken English abilities, clear to understand and great writing. I want to bring everybody into the organization with potential for them to grow if they want into like the senior account coordinator level or beyond. At that level, they directly communicate with the clients. So that is super important. Not so much so like deep Amazon knowledge. Like I said, fairly new to can be fine. It's great with the foundations, but again, we have a 6-month sort of ramp up period where they're not necessarily working full time, but they're getting training and starting to take on smaller tasks, and then they get more complex and fuller tasks as they get up to speed and get comfortable with what they're working on.
Making it more repetitive or them learning it hands-on makes them more familiar on what they're going to do, especially for those who are just starting out. Among other nationalities, as you mentioned, you have 6 Filipino virtual assistant or
Yes.
account coordinator.
Account coordinator.
Why Filipinos?
It goes to one of the other, I guess, soft skills. Besides kind of the reputation for Filipinos as having amazing English, another one is trust and loyalty. And that's certainly played out with everyone I brought on board. And that's really important too, especially when, for me, I didn't want to spend a bunch of time training somebody up and then they leave to go to another agency or something comes up, and that can happen, of course, but that is a bit of the reputation for the Filipinos, and I love that. Well, so, and I did want to mention before I forget that we've had at least one account coordinator that had a full-time job and transitioned over to REG45, maybe 2, quite remember, for sure one. So we're supportive of that process as well, and she's loving things versus what she had before with her Manila corporate job.
I believe that most of your account coordinators are enjoying it's because the culture that you may be given. And with this interview, I can feel your positive energy, your passion, and maybe we have some viewers right here. They may search REG45 immediately on Google if they're hiring. So for those of guys who are wondering, how do account coordinators work in REG45? Is it like part-time, full-time? Is there like 4 hours or 8 hours?
Yeah.
How does it go?
Like I mentioned, during the ramp up, it's kind of part-time under an evaluation process just to make sure we're a good fit for the new account coordinator and they're a good fit for REG45. After that, everyone who wants to, I guess, moves to full-time. We don't track hours or do any of that. They just get as if they work 40 hours a week. Sometimes they have to work more than 40 hours. So it's a little bit like a salaried position if we're super busy. And sometimes it might be a little bit less, but it averages out to be about 40 hours. And so we do that kind of full-time sort of a structure. One of the other important things for me that differentiates REG45, I think, a bit from other agencies is I've always been very sensitive and respectful of my team's working life. I shouldn't say no late night hours or early morning hours. We do have one team meeting. With my schedule, it works for them to have one evening meeting with me, but otherwise the expectation is they're working Filipino daytime hours and not on weekends either. That was, I think, I could probably call that a perk because I think a lot of other agencies don't have that same working arrangement. But for me, it's super important. I don't want the team burning out or, getting exhausted or not having family time or, all of the other important things with life. So that's a big deal. That's how the kind of work week goes. Each account coordinator gets assigned a certain number of clients, and we have a host of like daily activities that they need to do. And then there's typically mini projects to launch a new ASIN or revamp their PPC or whatever happens to be kind of added into that. And then the senior account coordinators help guide their work on a day-to-day basis and then communicate to the clients. And sometimes I'm communicating with the clients as well if it's, particularly challenging issue or things like that. And then I also do the US hours calls. Like this morning, I have 4 different client just status meetings to chat with them. That's the basics of how they work.
I love some of the notes that I highlighted here. So for the viewers, number one, I think for the viewers who want to get clients, for example, or want to collaborate with Amazon sellers or agencies in this space, you need to have good English communication skills. You should be trustworthy and also loyalty. And then what you mentioned a while ago, John, it's also possible for others who are working full-time because you highlighted a while ago that one of your account coordinators started as full-time employed and then transitioned to being an account coordinator with REG45. And then do not track hours because others are not also amenable to time trackers. Clients like John exists, and also respectful with working life, with just one team meeting just to align in terms of cadence for the team. So because for sure our viewers are asking if it's really possible, because we get a lot of questions. Is it really possible for one who is working full-time employed to dive into this career? And then you answered that yes, because you have an account coordinator before who started as full-time employed and then transitioned to this career. And you also laid out a while ago what tasks they do and how they help your business. I would like to know how it changed in terms of the benefits that they brought to you in terms of before and after. So how does it look like for you in terms of workload or in terms of business? Did it grow 10 times? Or 20 times before and after? So what are the benefits when you were doing it alone? And then when you hired, now you have 6 account coordinators already and counting.
I guess one of the big things that they're obviously doing the day-to-day, go into Seller Central, update bids in PPC, or loading images or using a flat file to try to fix a variation that's broken. But seller support is probably the big one where that can take so much time. And if I'm like doing it myself and having to sit on the phone with seller support for hours at a time each day, that really stops growth. I mean, I got to the point where I couldn't take on anyone new because it was just too much work. So to have them be able to do that for their clients and then get the issue resolved. And as hopefully everybody, well, maybe not everyone knows, but seller support is a very challenging part of running your Amazon account. There's a lot of templated responses. Sometimes your seller support agent doesn't really know what they're talking about, and you have to really get practiced at navigating that seller support system and the people and being very persistent, because like you can't just stop with the first answer if it's not what we need. You have to keep going and try to escalate and all that. But one thing I wanted to mention, make sure I don't forget this, showing initiative and self-direction, that would be another really important soft skill. I think Nita mentioned it, or maybe both of you did, but I just want to highlight that as well. It's hard to interview for that, but for anybody who's looking to get into this and work with an agency, if you can show that as much as possible up front, you're really going to stand out, I think. Because like that scenario I just mentioned with seller support, I can't specifically guide, okay, now do this for the next step, now do this for the next step. The account coordinators just do that on their own. They go, okay, that's not the answer, and how do I get through that, and all of that. And we're super collaborative as well. So when somebody gets stuck, they ask one of the senior account coordinators or each other, and help each other out. And, have you ever had this problem before? And then they're like, oh yeah, I did. Here's how you do it. And that's really important too. But I did want to mention, yeah, self-directed and self-starter initiative. Those are really important too.
Okay, there you go, guys. So if you're gonna have an interview at REG45 or to another Amazon seller, it's really important to have initiative, to be self-starter, and I guess more than being proactive as well. So those are things that Amazon clients are looking for, because us account coordinators, it's our job to make their lives easier, to make the business smooth sailing, and everything is at ease and flow.
I would also like to add Nina, because one of the agencies that we also interviewed before is they also have challenges with seller support. So I think it's a common challenge. So it's good for future account coordinators to also be familiar with how to navigate seller support. And I like you highlighted in terms of soft skills, and to highlight also for account coordinators to act as if they own the business, because you mentioned a while ago that you cannot look after them every now and then, and you trust them to resolve the issue without you being there really supervising. So care for the business, or in Filipino, we call it malasakit. Take it as if you own the business. You act as if you are the owner of REG45.
Oh, and also I would like to add, and I almost forgot, certain challenges like this, like the seller account, they're not that as responsive. Seller help, their message are not that personalized, because I experienced it a lot. So it's best that you have Amazon VA community. So that's why we build Amazenation. So if you have any problems with troubleshooting, your community is there to help you and your client. So going back to you, John, we'd also like to know the perspective of as a business owner in Amazon. Would you agree that it's hard nowadays to sell on Amazon? Or what's your take on building an Amazon business now?
It's getting harder and harder. Absolutely. First started in 2016, and it's quite a bit different now for sure. Just there's virtually no categories anymore that don't have competition or extensive competition. So you have your price challenges with the other sellers. You can have reseller situations which are driving your price down with unauthorized resellers on your listing. The fees that Amazon rolled out this last few months, it's getting ridiculous, to be honest, to make a profit on Amazon. And then we have the competitive pricing algorithm that will take away the buy box if your price is too high, which you kind of need to have a price on Amazon that's profitable. Otherwise, it makes no sense to sell there if you're losing money. So I would say definitely the challenges, the complexities increased as well to manage a seller's account, just given all of the new tools and features and A+ content, enhanced A+ content, and all the ad types. If you're trying to do that yourself, it's pretty daunting. I mean, we at Reg45, the only thing we do is Amazon, and it's can be challenging for us to keep up with everything that's new. So that's really the value we bring to our clients. One of our goals is to make it easy to sell on Amazon for them, so they can just let us manage their entire Seller Central account. So I don't know if I mentioned that at the start, but we do everything. So PPC as well as account management and anything else that's needed. So from an agency perspective and client perspective, it is getting harder. But the other thing, it's still kind of mandatory. If you have a private label brand and you're not on Amazon, probably someone else is selling your products there. And then you might not have a very good product detail page on optimized content, and your brand doesn't look very good. So even if it's not super profitable, you almost need to have your presence out there and control it so that others aren't tarnishing your brand. It's still the place to go. And I don't know, well, it just keeps getting more and more complex though, for sure.
Yeah, I love how you highlighted different parts of the Amazon business in terms of some challenges also, or the dynamics on how it evolves, the price competition, the fees, which increase, because I think with the competition now, it's also an opportunity for Amazon to increase some fees in terms of revenues also. And then for the A+ contents, the ads. So those things that we really need to optimize to be competitive also in the market. So with that, what's next for Reg45? What's the plan in terms of some initiatives or improvements, or what's the big goal for Reg45 for next year or in the coming years?
We're trying to do now, so we've gotten a good sized team in place and we have capacity. So now we're moving to more of a focus on marketing. And I might need that business coach back as we're talking here. I'm like, I could use some help with that. So we've been exploring a couple different marketing approaches to date. Prior to the last few months, the focus or all the new business was coming from referrals. Thankfully, we've been doing a really good job for our clients. And so they're recommending to their business friends Reg45. So we've gotten a lot of referral business and referral clients, but now to the point where we can expand a bit more. So I have a trade show in May that I'm going to go in the grocery category. That happens to be one of our top categories for our clients, grocery and pet. For no particular reason, we don't focus on a certain niche within or category within Amazon, but we have a lot of those. So I'm going to go to Food Expo as well as other marketing. So that the challenge is to get the marketing process going so that we can have somewhat predictable amount of new clients coming in, which will then allow us to scale the team and hire additional account coordinators. But yeah, we're still in the early stages of that, I guess. So.
And you also mentioned that there are outside Reg45, there are also some other business ventures, but exciting times also for Reg45. You mentioned some other like Food Expo or some groceries that you want also to go into to also expand the business. And you also mentioned opportunity to expand your team of account coordinators in Reg45. So we heard that your team now of account coordinators is all Filipino, and you've shared a lot already in terms of tips on how to excel as an account coordinator. But last piece of advice for those who are aspiring to join Reg45, what should they do in terms of where to start, the process of learning, where to get skills, and how to develop those for them to be able to land a job in the likes of Reg45?
Great question. I mean, definitely a course like Amazenation and having that background will give them confidence in the interview process to like, yep, they know Dollar Central is, they know PPC, understand the basics of it. So that's super important. And, I don't know if this makes sense, but like taking courses or making sure that their spoken English and written English is as good as they can get it. I suppose there's training over there for that. That makes a big impression, and that's right away. So within that short Loom video in our hiring process, that would be the screening criteria. If I can't quite understand very well, then I won't have the time to proceed to the next step of the interview. So that's super important. Those two there. I think as hard as it is to sell on Amazon, I think there is still a ton of opportunity with a lot of agencies. It's a little bit hard to find all of us. There's not like Amazon agency directory, at least you know of one, please let me know. But I do continue to see new agency names popping up. So wherever there's an agency, they're going to need account coordinators to help them grow and support their clients. So I think there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Thank you so much, John. And there you have it, guys. Everything came from an agency owner. He gave so much tips and he really vouched Filipino Amazon virtual assistants or account coordinators. Thank you so much, John, for sharing your time. Me as well, I learned so many things about you, about being proactive, taking initiative, and yeah, being a great team member for the whole company as well. How about you, Paula? Any last words for John?
Yeah, thank you, John, for your time. And thank you also for great insights that you shared with us. Actually, I filled one notepad here with your insights as well, because I myself is an Amazon seller virtual assistant or account coordinator. So I'm also still honing my skills, and I really learned a lot and get valuable insights from someone like you who is experienced in the industry. And for those who are watching, it's also another opportunity or another career path for us, because we can also establish our own agency in the future once we get acclimatized or get the know-how on how to support sellers in terms of growing their business. So thank you for your time.
I also like to add, John, you broke the stereotype that, agencies are very fast-paced, they're like hostile, something like that. Everything should be like so fast, but then you came up here with a very holistic approach, thinking about the well-beings of your team members, them having their time with their family. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that clients like you exist.
Well, thank you for saying that. And thank you both. This has been a fantastic interview. Glad some of my insights helped. And maybe together we can start to change the nomenclature and start referring to it as account coordinators. Amazon account
Yes.
coordinators might be a bigger
Yeah.
name, because that is really what they're doing. They're in the seller central account, managing the account. Maybe we'll start changing that naming.
More empowering. And
Yep.
you mentioned a while ago, John, that your account coordinator, some of them are from Cebu. So we hope to see you here in the Philippines soon. And if you ever come visit here, please send us a note so we can also support you. Maybe we can go
Awesome.
diving somewhere.
That sounds great.
Scuba diving,
Awesome.
yes. Thank you so
Thank
much
you both.
for watching and see you next time. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to know more about freelancing, follow us on our Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Instagram page. And if you have any inquiries, just contact the number on your screen. This is your Amazenation brand ambassador, Nina, and with Amazenation, we provide life-changing learning for extraordinary living. See you next time.